Well, one of the things that I think the three of us have really come to the conclusion is that individualized ed is still teacher focused education. And, this goes back a long way for me, as from my work in special education, that it isn't the job of the teacher to individualize education. It's the job of the student to personalize it. And in a term I have often used and have written about, Toolbelt theory, that students need to not only build their learning by themselves, but build the collection of tools they use on a daily or hourly basis. And it is in that learning where the student creates the context and the environment that you actually allow the widest range of students to succeed. So child-centered learning to us is all about student-created context. And that means that it's our job as adults to find the moments to plug in if we see content that is missing, to plug it into the activities of the students. And that can range from a multi-age elementary school class deciding to make a Thanksgiving dinner together, and then having teachers realize that they can get measuring into the younger kids and ratios into the older kids. Or it can be a group of students, building, as we describe, tree houses in their middle school cafeteria, and realizing all the math and communication skills and science that can be plugged into that. The trick is to say to the students, what do you want to do? That's always the first question we hope educators ask. But what goes behind that question is, what do we want our children to be? And we wanted them to be independent, collaborative, creative, capable of leading their own lives in a good way. And if we do that, we really need to bring the hidden curriculum of schools into, philosophical alignment with, what we believe we want our children to be. And, so schools can often, talk about, well, we're going to have a genius hour. But when they have the genius hour, kids still have to raise their hands and ask permission to go to the bathroom. So that's just not student-centered.
I would love to talk about that, because it's one of the favorite things that I read when I was reading through your work, which is talking about Genius Hour. I'll just quote you really quickly. Authentic opportunities for learners to create, design, build, engineer, and compose cannot truly coexist within the standardization model. That's why tinkering around the edges, adding a genius hour to an otherwise unchanged school day, accomplishes nothing except to highlight all that's wrong with our schools for this century. So you've kind of already touched on it, but could you elaborate further on why it is that genius hour really isn't enough?
Well, there's the famous Larry Cuban book, Tinkering Towards Utopia. When you tinker, all you do is reveal everything that's wrong. So if you say to students, during this hour a day or this hour a week or, this 2 hours a week, we're going to do learning well, what does that do but highlight what you're doing the rest of the week or the rest of the day? And students pick up on this immediately. It's like saying, I need to get to the one class where the teacher cares about me, right? It highlights what's wrong with all the rest. So the problem is that when change just something around a moment, and you say this is something we've added in, what it does for students is it shows the gap between what education could be and what it currently is. So I'm not saying you can't use that as a start to help teachers learn to let go, which is really what it's all about, letting the adults in the school learn to give up the control that they usually guard so jealously. you can use that if you have a plan to go further. But if your plan is to have a genius hour or an after school robotics club or or this or that, a maker time or whatever you want to call it, then you will never get any further down the road. So one of the things I usually tried to do in Albemarle County was to say, if someone came to me and said, we really want to do a robotics club after school, I would say, well, I'll support that. I'll get you money for the kits. I'll even help you arrange transportation so that any kid who wants to participate can, and it's not just those with middle-class parents. But before I do that, you need to come to me with a plan for how this robotics club is going to, in 2 years, be robotics and coding infused in all math instruction in every classroom. So it's the trick of saying, you can tinker around the edges if you have a plan to get, things fundamentally changed. The other part of this that I think is really important is that, people will always say, school leaders will often say, well, we can't change everything at once. But the trick is you need to change everything. I worked with a professor when I was at Michigan State, named Fendler, and she always used to say the hidden curriculum is the curriculum. Students don't learn the content of school, they learn the context. And so if you are adding a genius hour, say, into middle school, and you still have bells, if you are adding, maker moments into elementary school, but you still say, this 5 minutes is purely about reading, you're defeating what you're trying to teach with the structures that you're maintaining. So that's why we say, it is about many things. It's about time. It's about policies regarding behavior. It's about spaces. It's about technology, and it's about practice.